So, have you ever tried to learn a new language, like downloaded all the right apps, bought those really expensive grammar books, and yet years later, you still completely freeze up when trying to order a coffee on vacation?
Oh, yeah. It's a universally humbling experience.
Right, like you just stand there staring at the barista, your mind goes entirely blank, and you just end up pointing at a pastry and, mumbling something in your native language.
Exactly. And honestly, it's the exact reason so many adults just write themselves off as being, well, bad at languages.
Which brings us to exactly what we are diving into today. We've got our hands on this really fascinating source document called the Modern Language Learning Guide.
It is such a good read.
It really is. And our mission for this deep dive is to basically extract the definitive modern blueprint for acquiring a new language, specifically in the AI era.
Right, because things have completely changed.
Exactly. We're going to strip away the busy work, avoid that overwhelming avalanche of information out there, and find the absolute shortest path to actual usable fluency.
Yeah, and right off the bat, this guide makes it super clear that the way most of us tried to learn, memorizing vocabulary lists and waiting until we felt perfectly ready to speak
Hmm.
is just completely backward.
Totally.
It fundamentally is. The shift in perspective that this guide offers right up front is really about redefining the goal line.
Yeah.
Fluency isn't about knowing everything in the language.
Right.
It's about being able to communicate anything. If you're just waiting for perfection, you are actively preventing yourself from becoming fluent.
I mean, I want to get right into the proof of this because the author of this guide uses their own personal journey to show this isn't just some abstract academic theory.
Yeah, their story is wild.
It really is. They started out as a complete beginner in English, what the European framework calls an A1 level, which basically means like zero practical knowledge.
Right, complete baseline.
And they went to a traditional language school. And the school essentially told them, okay, to reach a solid B2 level, which is conversational fluency, where you can actually survive in a workplace, it's going to take you about 2 years. And that's if you're fast.
Which is such a discouraging timeline.
Oh, absolutely. And as is almost always the case with traditional language schools, it was incredibly expensive. So, out of sheer necessity, the author decided to just drop out and study independently using the methods we're about to discuss.
And it paid off.
Massively. They ended up passing the B2 exam entirely on their own
Yeah.
and scored so well they were placed directly into C1, which is, advanced near native fluency.
That's huge. But what's even crazier is what happened next.
Yes. Because later on, they applied this exact same system to learn Norwegian, and they went from 0 to a B2 conversational level in just 7 months.
7 months.
Now, I've got to push back here a little. 7 months. I mean, that sounds like one of those sketchy internet scams. How is that even neurologically possible for an adult? The guide specifically claims this wasn't some latent linguistic talent,
It
right?
wasn't talent at all. And what's fascinating here is the underlying cognitive mechanism. Why do traditional methods, like spending 2 years in a classroom memorizing the subjunctive tense, why do they fail so often?
Yeah, why?
Well, it's because the human brain does not learn language through isolated memorization. It learns through pattern recognition, repeated exposure, and most importantly, meaningful communication.
Oh,
Think about how children adapt to a language. They don't study a textbook on sentence structure before they ask for juice.
no, they just yell for juice.
Exactly. They experience language in real high-stakes, well, for a toddler, anyway, situations.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second. So treating language learning like a math test where we sit there trying to plug in the right grammar formulas before we even open our mouths, it's not just slow, it's actually fighting our own biology.
Precisely. When you learn grammar rules in isolation, you're storing that information in a part of the brain used for explicit declarative memory.
Like trivia facts.
Right. But speaking a language in real time requires implicit procedural memory. It's the difference between knowing the theory of something and actually performing it.
So it's more like learning to ride a bike. You have to get on and pedal even if you wobble and fall over.
That is a perfect analogy. You have to wobble.
So if grammar drills and vocabulary flashcards aren't the answer, what is the actual mechanism that drives you forward? The guide introduces something called the golden habit.
Yes, the core of the whole system.
And it explicitly states that if you take only one thing away from this entire deep dive, it should be this. You must speak aloud for 10 to 15 minutes every single day.
Every single day.
Now wait, just 15 minutes. I'm trying to wrap my head around this. How can 15 minutes a day outpace a 2-hour intensive classroom session?
It goes down to the quality of the cognitive load and the frequency of the exposure. Speaking aloud forces your brain to bridge that massive gap between passive understanding like reading a word and knowing what it means, and active creation.
Which is totally different.
Completely different. Active creation is pulling that word out of the ether to build a thought. It trains what the guide calls automatic sentence formation.
Ah, automatic.
Right. And doing it daily is crucial because of how memory consolidation works during sleep.
Meaning, if I binge study for 3 hours on Sunday, my brain just dumps most of it by Tuesday.
That's exactly what happens. But if you struggle to form sentences for 15 minutes every single day, your brain receives a daily biological signal that this specific neural pathway is critical for your survival.
Oh, wow.
So it starts reinforcing it. Now, in the beginning, talking out loud to yourself in a new language feels incredibly uncomfortable. You will stutter. Your mind will go blank. You will forget the word for apple. But that discomfort is not failure. That discomfort is literally your brain adapting in real time. You are physically building new neural pathways.
And to keep you accountable on this, the guide has a very specific tactic called the recording rule.
I love this rule.
It's so smart. You are supposed to record yourself on your phone during these daily 15-minute speaking sessions, but you don't do this to publish it to the world. You do it as proof to yourself that you actually completed the session.
Right, just a personal log.
But here's the crucial part. The guide strictly forbids you from listening back to it right away.
Which is such a brilliant psychological safeguard. If you listen to a recording of yourself struggling, pausing, and mispronouncing things immediately after making it, your ego just takes a massive hit.
Yeah, you cringe.
Exactly. You only focus on your imperfections, and it can be so discouraging that you just quit the next day.
Right. You're supposed to wait a few months before listening back. And when you do, the progress is staggering. It's kind of like tracking weight loss, you know? You don't notice it day by day in the mirror, but when you look back at a photo from 3 months ago, the change is undeniable.
That's a great way to look at it.
And for anyone sitting there thinking, what on earth do I talk about for 15 minutes by myself in an empty room? The guide provides prompts. You can describe the objects around you. You can talk through a real decision you need to make it work.
Or you can just retell the plot of a movie you just watched.
Exactly.
The content matters far less than the continuous mechanical output. You are really just trying to keep the engine running.
Okay, but this brings up a massive red flag for me.
Yeah.
If I am pacing my living room, talking to myself for 15 minutes a day, and making 100 grammatical errors, aren't I just building a highly efficient neural pathway of terrible grammar?
That is the big fear, isn't it?
Yeah. Am I not just cementing my own mistakes into my brain permanently?
Well, historically, yes. That was the massive looming risk of self-study. You didn't have a native speaker sitting next to you to tap you on the shoulder and say, actually, we say it this way.
Right.
But this is where the landscape of learning has fundamentally shifted. This is where we enter the AI paradox.
The perfect flawed partner.
Exactly. Because for the very first time in human history, learners have instant access to corrections, unlimited explanations, and personalized feedback at literally any hour of the day.
You don't need a $50 an hour tutor anymore.
You really don't.
Yeah.
The guide provides a very specific template for what it calls an AI tutor prompt.
Yeah, you basically tell a large language model, act as my language partner. When I send words, give me 3 example sentences. When I send sentences, correct my grammar, explain the mistake as simply as possible, and suggest more natural ways a native speaker would say it.
It is revolutionary. You essentially have a world-class linguist in your pocket at all times.
It's amazing.
It is. But, and this is a big but, as the guide urgently points out, it is also a massive trap. AI solves the problem of feedback, but it introduces a brand new problem. Endless passive consumption.
The illusion of competence.
Yes. It is so easy to fall into the feeling that you are learning. You prompt the AI, it gives you a beautifully formatted, highly detailed explanation of why you used the wrong verb tense. You read it, you nod, and you feel incredibly productive.
Because you understood the explanation.
Right. But the author drops a very poignant quote here. AI changes access. It doesn't change consistency.
Oof, that's good.
Isn't it? Reading an AI's perfectly generated grammar explanation is not practicing, it is just reading.
So what does this all mean for how we actually use these tools without falling into the trap?
Well, the guide offers a very practical fix, and it completely changes how you approach grammar.
Yeah, it says when your AI tutor corrects a sentence you wrote, you cannot just read the explanation and move on. You have to ask the AI why that correction was made.
And then, this is the really critical step. You must immediately write 2 more sentences. using that exact same newly corrected structure.
You have to prove to your own brain that you understand it by actually using it.
Exactly. If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is about shifting from passive abstraction to active application. The traditional classroom method treats grammar as a set of rules to memorize before you speak.
Like a prerequisite.
Right.
Yeah.
But this modern approach treats grammar as a tool. You only reach for it when you are actively trying to build a specific sentence, and you suddenly realize, oh, I don't have the right wrench.
That makes so much sense.
You learn the rule specifically by applying it in context. As the guide says, grammar is a tool to use, not a subject to study.
Okay, so AI is dynamically fixing our grammar output. We are speaking daily, making mistakes, getting corrected, and trying again. But there is a huge disconnect here. I can output a perfect sentence, right? But if I walk into a bakery in Paris and a native speaker replies to me at full speed, my perfectly practiced grammar doesn't help me understand a single word they're saying.
Ah, yes. The speed barrier.
It just sounds like a machine gun of syllables. How does the guide bridge that gap?
Listening comprehension is almost always the most frustrating plateau for learners. You know the vocabulary on paper, but when it's spoken at natural conversational speed, with all the words blending together, it sounds like one long, unbroken noise.
Yeah, it's terrifying. But the guide has a fascinating, totally counterintuitive nugget of wisdom for this. It says, your mouth teaches your ears.
It is brilliant.
I literally had to stop and reread that. To
Yeah.
understand fast conversation, you actually have to train your own pronunciation.
It sounds totally backward, right? But neurologically, it makes perfect sense. Many learners literally cannot hear sounds that they cannot physically pronounce.
Wait, really?
Yes. Their brain hasn't categorized that specific phonetic frequency or rhythm as meaningful data yet, so it just filters it out as background noise.
Wow. I love this. It's like a radio receiver. If your mouth hasn't built the physical hardware to broadcast that specific frequency, your ears don't even have the antenna to receive it. It just sounds like static.
That is a beautiful way to conceptualize it.
Yeah.
By engaging in targeted pronunciation training, learning the physical mechanics of where your tongue goes for certain vowels, where the syllable stress falls, how words naturally link together or get dropped in casual speech, you are actually teaching your brain's auditory processing center what to listen for.
You are calibrating the antenna.
Exactly. You're calibrating the antenna.
And to do that calibration, the guide breaks down listening into two distinct daily routines, passive listening and active listening.
Right.
Passive listening is what most of us default to, right? Having a target language podcast playing in the background while commuting or like folding laundry.
Yeah, and passive listening definitely has its place. You might only understand 10% of it, and that is fine.
Because it's not really about understanding every word.
Exactly. Passive listening isn't about deep comprehension. It's about building familiarity with the natural rhythm, the cadence, and the intonation patterns of the language. It's atmospheric.
But active listening is where the real heavy lifting happens, and the ultimate active listening tool the guide recommends is a technique called shadowing.
Shadowing is intense.
It is. The way it works is you take a TV series in your target language. And the guide has a strict rule here. You must use target language subtitles only. No subtitles in your native language at all.
Because if you do, your brain will just take the path of least resistance and you'll end up reading instead of listening.
Right. So you pick a short scene, maybe 30 seconds long, and you shadow the actor.
Shadowing means you repeat the speech almost simultaneously with the speaker on screen, just a fraction of a second behind them.
Like an echo.
Yes. But you aren't just reciting the words in a flat, monotone voice. You are trying to match their exact rhythm, their stress, their pauses, and their emotional tone.
So if the actor sounds furious, you sound furious.
If they're whispering a secret, you whisper.
You're basically acting. You are mimicking the physical performance of the language.
Precisely. And it's an intensely physical, exhausting exercise.
I can imagine.
Taking a single 30-second scene from a sitcom and trying to shadow it perfectly might take you 10 whole minutes of pausing, rewinding, and trying again.
10 minutes for 30 seconds of audio.
Yes. Your mouth will literally ache because you are using facial muscles you don't normally use. But the goal isn't to get through the episode quickly to see what happens next. The goal is training your mouth to process and produce connected natural speech.
Which, as we established, directly trains your ears to hear it.
Exactly.
So if we look at the landscape now, we have the tools. We know we need to speak for 15 minutes a day. We know how to use AI to correct our output without getting lazy, and we know how to shadow TV shows to tune our ears.
We got the whole toolkit.
Right. With all of this readily available, why do so many smart, capable, highly motivated adults still fail to learn a language?
Well, that transitions us from the mechanics of the mouth directly into the mechanics of the mind, because the guide addresses the psychology of language learning head on.
And it doesn't pull any punches.
Not at all. It points out that adults generally do not fail because the grammar is too complex. They fail because of fear.
Perfectionism kills fluency. That phrase from the text really hit me. When kids learn, they have zero shame.
None.
They make a mistake, they fall down, they get back up. But as adults, we carry this immense fear of sounding stupid. We are so used to being competent and articulate in our professional and personal lives.
And suddenly, you are reduced to the vocabulary of a toddler. You can't express your nuanced thoughts, and it feels humiliating.
Yeah, that humiliation creates fear, and fear creates silence.
Mm-hmm.
And silence absolutely kills progress.
It does. The antidote to this, according to the guide, isn't studying more grammar in secret until you're perfectly ready to speak without errors. The antidote is courage. It requires a fundamental shift in your identity. You have to stop telling yourself and your friends, "Oh, I'm trying to learn Spanish."
Right. Instead, you need to tell yourself, I am a Spanish speaker who is still improving.
That is a massive psychological pivot.
It really is. It moves the language from an external task on your to-do list, which we all know gets abandoned by February anyway, into a core part of who you are.
And part of embodying that identity is learning to think in the language. The guide implores learners to think, don't translate.
Oh, this is a big one.
When you try to construct a complex sentence in your native language first and then translate it word for word in your head before speaking, it creates a massive cognitive bottleneck.
It drains your mental energy and makes your speech incredibly clunky, but how do you just magically stop translating? You can't just flip a switch in your brain.
No, you can't. The guide says the secret is starting with tiny, almost microscopic, everyday observations. Well, you wake up in the morning, and instead of thinking the English phrase, "I need coffee," you force yourself to retrieve and think that phrase in your target language before you allow yourself to walk to the kitchen.
Oh, I like that.
Or you are looking for your keys, and you ask yourself where they are in the target language. You train your brain with these micro repetitions until that translation step just drops away naturally.
And what's truly brilliant about this guide is that it doesn't just leave you with these abstract psychological concepts. It operationalizes everything we've discussed into a highly structured, foolproof daily system tailored for the busy adult.
The 30-minute daily system.
Yes. Well, let's break this down because I know everyone listening is thinking, this sounds great, but I don't have time.
Right, but everyone has 30 minutes.
Exactly. But how do we actually divide that time to hit all these different mechanisms, the ear, the mouth, the grammar, without getting overwhelmed?
The guide breaks it down into 5 highly focused blocks. It starts with just 5 minutes of shadowing.
Okay, so 5 minutes of physical acting.
Exactly. You pick a 30-second audio or video clip and just engage physically. Match the rhythm, speed, and emotion. Wake up the mouth.
Okay, then what?
Then comes the heavy lift. 10 minutes of speaking. This is the golden habit we discussed earlier. Pick a prompt, talk continuously without stopping, and record yourself.
And if you don't know a word, just talk around it.
Yes. Just keep the words flowing to build that automatic sentence formation.
So we are 15 minutes in. Then the guide suggests 5 minutes of vocabulary, but it emphasizes this shouldn't be random flashcard lists you downloaded from the internet.
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
You take 5 words that are actually relevant to your daily life, words you needed during your speaking session but didn't know, and you use each one aloud in a brand new, context-rich sentence.
Got it. And the next block.
Next is 5 minutes of listening. No subtitles, no intense pausing. Put on a story or a podcast and just absorb the sounds. Let your newly trained ears try to pick out the rhythms naturally.
And finally, the last 5 minutes are dedicated to reflection. The guide insists you talk out loud in your target language about what went well in today's session and what was hard.
Yes, this part is crucial.
Now, why dedicate precious time to reflection instead of just, learning more words?
Because reflection anchors the learning. It moves the experience from a frantic exercise into mindful practice.
Wow.
By summarizing what you struggled with, you are actively telling your brain which gaps need to be filled tomorrow.
It creates a closed feedback loop.
Exactly.
It is a brilliantly balanced regimen. It covers pronunciation,
Realistic caveat.
Oh, the fallback plan.
yeah, What if you have a terrible day, everything goes wrong, and you honestly do not have 30 minutes? The rule is you just do 10 minutes of speaking, period.
That's it.
The only bad session is the one you skip entirely. Consistency beats intensity every single time.
That is the overarching philosophy of the entire guide. Progress in language learning is not linear.
Not at all.
It often becomes completely invisible before it becomes visible again, especially when you hit that intermediate plateau around the B1 or B2 level. You might feel like you are standing still for months.
Just totally stuck.
But under the surface, your brain is doing the deep neurological work. It is moving knowledge from short-term to long-term memory. It is speeding up those pathways. You just have to trust the process during those slow, confusing periods.
So, to bring this all together for you listening, the path to fluency isn't built in massive, exhausting, weekend-long study binges.
Definitely not.
It's not found in the bottom of a grammar textbook, and it's certainly not found by passively collecting a dozen different flashcard apps on your phone.
Right.
Fluency is built in the daily 15-minute repetitions that nobody else sees. It is built in the messy, uncomfortable moments of talking to an empty room, making glaring mistakes, asking your AI tutor why you were wrong, and trying again.
You do not become fluent through the accumulation of information. You become fluent through the courageous act of communication.
The guide makes it abundantly clear that the fear of sounding stupid is the ultimate final barrier to fluency. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, it really makes you wonder.
How so?
Well, how much of our inability to learn any new skill as adults, whether it's a new language, a musical instrument, or even just complicated new technology at work, is simply our own ego refusing to let us look foolish for just a little while?
Oh, that is a great question.
Something to think about the next time you hesitate to speak up. Keep pushing through the discomfort, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.